Okay, so today we are talking about the 6 darshanas, and we'll also say something about the sampradayas. Now, the word darshana means literally seeing something, a perspective, a view, a vision, something that we see in the sense that we understand. One of the biggest misconceptions that circulate is that the 6 darshanas are philosophical schools, and the sampradayas are philosophical schools in the Western sense. In the Western sense, you go to university or the high school and you study about the history of philosophy, and you have a number of schools, philosophical schools, or schools of thought. This is basically due to the concept on which the Western academia was started. Western academia was started in recent times, around the year 1000, in Europe, by the church. Now, why the church wanted to study other ideologies? Not to integrate them, but to oppose them. This is a very important point. So in the mainstream academic mentality, the study of philosophy is basically a study of opposing theories. I don't know if any of you have gone to philosophy courses at university. But the end result of the mainstream academical approach to philosophy is that people come out, they get a doctorate in philosophy with the idea that truth does not exist, because each school is presented as opposed to the other schools. So this philosopher says this. The other philosopher says something totally different. Now, this is not the Vedic approach. The Vedic approach is to reconcile the different perspectives or views of reality, the different darshanas and sampradayas. All the darshanas and sampradayas, in fact, are supposed to speak about the same reality in a multidimensional manner. We can make the distinction between the mainstream Western, if we want to call it, academic system and the Vedic system, the Vedic education system, knowledge system, by making an example. Like the Western academic system is a series of bidimensional photos or slides that we have to study separately, and they look like completely different things. The different darshanas and sampradayas in the Vedic approach, in the Hindu Vedic approach, are slides of the same object that are put together with a special software. So they give a multidimensional image, like a hologram. Now we can make the example of an object like a mountain. Okay, you can take a number of photos of a mountain from different positions and perspectives. If you keep them bidimensional, if you try to superimpose these bidimensional slides to get a complete idea of the mountain, you get a monster. The image that comes out is completely confused. You will never find that mountain. Or if you take a number of bidimensional pictures or slides of one person, one human being, in different positions, if you think bidimensionally, two-dimensionally, you have slides, you superimpose one to the other, and you get a very strange image that you will not be able to understand. So you'll not be able to actually recognize that person if you meet them. The Hindu Vedic approach is that the slides, the various perspectives and slides and images of that person in movement is actually a moving picture. So the moving picture is holographic, multidimensional. So we see that is a totally different approach. Now, after clarifying this, any question here?
Not from mine.
Clear, okay.
Mataji, mine having one question.
Please.
Is it like when all the darshanas will be put together, then
Yes.
we can get the real image of the Brahman?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is exactly the purpose of the example. So this applies both to the darshanas and to the sampradayas. Like for example,
one question from mine on this line only. So
please.
you have to have an understanding of all the darshanas to see the reality, or one darshana should suffice as you see the moving picture?
Yes, one darshana could be sufficient, but still each of the darshanas scientifically, or the original darshana has contains all the instruments to see the reality as a whole. For example, we have the list of the 6 darshanas. Okay, so the Uttaramimamsa or Vedanta is probably the most famous, traditionally in India. Then the Karma Mimamsa or Purva Mimamsa is the ritualistic perspective. Then we have the Yoga, the Sankhya, the Nyaya, and the Vaisheshika. Okay, so we see, for example, that we were discussing about how the study of and the practice of the Dharma and Vidya in the Vedic system is applied in different ways during the various stages of life, from brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. Now, we have seen that the brahmachari is learning and practicing the karma kanda. The grihastha is actually applying the karma kanda. He becomes the karta. Brahmacharya is like a training. Brahmacharya is a trainee. You know, like when you learn to drive a car, you're not actually driving, because you have someone who's driving, it has double commands in the car, so you're not really able to do a lot of damage. So that is the brahmacharya position. Brahmacharya is not the karta. Brahmachari is learning. Then when he has learned enough and he is confident and he is qualified, he becomes a grihasta, and he actually practices the application of the Purva Mimamsa. Purva means before, ancient, the original. Okay, so the Vanaprastha continues to do the rituals, but increasingly in an inner direction. So from the Samhitas, the Vanaprastha is focusing more on Upanishad and Aranyakas. Okay, and finally the sannyasi is completely interiorizing the Shastra. Now the Purva means in the first stages of life. The Uttara Mimamsa, or higher or further Mimamsa, is the Vedanta. The Vedanta Sutra is completely interiorized. That is not a contradiction to the Purva Mimamsa. It's just a different level of application of the same knowledge. The word Vedanta means the end of the Vedas, the purpose of the Vedas, where the Vedas come to an end. Like Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is also saying that the people who are attached to the flowery language of the Vedas, they're stuck in the samsara because they go up and down and up and down. But at some point, you're supposed to overcome this attachment, to go beyond on the transcendental level. So the Vedanta Sutra is the transcendental level. Is this clear?
Yes, partly, but here, we discussed about two of the darshanas only, how others also integrate here, that they also are needed.
Yes, we can go on. The third in the list that I have here is yoga. Yoga is one of the 6 main darshanas. They're generally the yoga that is studied in this darshana is also called Raja Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. But the yoga also includes some knowledge. All the Yoga Shastra. When you engage in yoga, you don't have to go through all the rituals. You don't have to study the Vedanta Sutra, because you are considered beyond even the position of sannyasi. Now, the 4 varnas and 4 ashrams are those under the system of the Varnashrama Dharma, which is a ritual process. But we said yesterday that yoga and bhakti, the yogis and the bhaktas, are not within the Varnashrama Dharma, because they are dedicated to the self. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is explaining. There is a chapter, first chapter is Arjuna Vishada Yoga, is just the introduction, why Arjuna is confused and perplexed and he doesn't know what to do. Second chapter is it's called Sankhya Yoga, but the Sankhya in the sense of a distinction between the Kshetra and the Kshetragya. what is the Atman and what is the matter? What is the material body? What is the self? What is the soul? Then third chapter, we have the Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, Krishna is explaining the Purva Mimamsa. Then he said, okay, Purva Mimamsa is good, but there is a higher position, which is called Uttara Mimamsa. He's not mentioning Uttara Mimamsa. He's mentioning the Vedanta at some point in Gita. He's saying Vedanta Krit, Vedavid Eva Chaham. Means I am the author of the Vedanta. I am the one who established the purpose of the Vedas. So Bhagavad Gita is explaining how to go from Karma Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa to Uttara Mimamsa or Vedanta. But this is still within the traditional regular system, the automatic system. Then Krishna continues in Bhagavad Gita to speak about the different, the other approaches. He speaks about yoga, he speaks about bhakti specifically. So yoga and bhakti, if you study the Bhagavad Gita, you will see that Krishna explains very clearly that yoga and bhakti do not depend on the Varnashrama Dharma. The Varnashrama Dharma is a social structure. Yoga and bhakti are transcendental. They don't depend on social structure. Okay, so yoga, we have to see what definitions of yoga we have. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving many definitions of the word yoga. And every chapter is called yoga. Even the suffering and confusion of Arjuna is called yoga. So this should open our mind more about what is the actual meaning of yoga.